Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of Logo CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. Today, my guest is Manish Agrawal, one of the two founders of Yagna IQ. Yagna IQ offers various products, including a CPQ solution, a renewal solution, and an up and cross-sell solution. Welcome, Manish, to the CPQ podcast.
Thanks a lot, Frank, for having me here. It's my pleasure and an honor.
And I'm very excited to have you, Manish, and your co-founder, Ram, was on the podcast a little bit over a year ago, so it's good to have you too. So now for all our listeners, I want to have a quick note before we get started. So this podcast will be a little bit different from the other podcasts that we do because we will do a deeper dive on channel sales in this episode. So if you're interested to learn more about channel sales in general and the Yagna IQ channel solution in particular, this is the episode you should listen to. And note also that we will focus on this discussion more on renewals and install-based monetization than on CPQ. And Manish, let's maybe get started by telling our listeners a little bit more about yourself.
My name is Manish Agrawal and I'm the co-founder and CTO of Yagna IQ. My role is to drive the technology and engineering at Yagna. Yagna was founded by me and Ram Rai, and as you said, Frank, Ram was also in one of your earlier podcasts. It is interesting that Ram and I go back almost 25 years. Our partnership started at IP Cell, where Ram was a founder and I was a founding engineer. We take pride that we built world's first class 5 voice soft switch, and we were then acquired by Cisco Systems. Coming to Yagna, we started Yagna almost 14 plus years ago. And we were known as Yagna IQ Solutions then. When we started, we didn't have CPQ product, though we did build many custom configurator solution catered towards high-tech industry. Then Telstra and Cisco's of the world were some of the first customers. Fast forward to 2017-18, that's when we decided to pivot and productize ourselves as cloud CPQ platform. We already had tons of experience around CPQ because of our custom projects, and the transition was natural and relatively easier.
Excellent. And I think one thing that you mentioned is very interesting, right? So you and Ram know each other for 25 years. That's longer than some people are married, right? So that's...
yes, right.
You have a long relationship. Excellent. And why did you decide to focus on the channel business, Manish?
Great question, Frank. So once on CPQ bandwagon, around 2017-18, I'm talking, we quickly realized that continuous innovation is the key to thrive in this crowded CPQ market, right? So as you know, there are multiple different players. And how do we make sure that we stand out with our solution? And this is where we decided to focus on the channel CPQ area, which was kind of relatively untouched, I can say. What we noticed that most of the CPQ products in the market were catering to the product manufacturers or vendor, as we call it, right? And if you see, while these vendors are selling through channels, their CPQ systems were only addressing, the needs of their own, that is vendors' need, but not solving the channel problem, which was leaving the channel high and dry, as I call it, means without any solution. So we also realized that CPQ requirement for channel is quite different from CPQ requirement for vendor. And then we decided to focus on the two key areas. So one, channel CPQ in general, which can be, complementary to a vendor CPQ system. And one of the key success we have built around where we have built our app, which does a zero-touch maintenance renewal. So this is in particular within the CPQ that we have built a very cool solution, and I'll talk more about it a little later. And the other one was the install-based monetization through, upsell and cross-sell.
Great, and we will talk about these topics in a minute. But before we go there, I want to pick up on something that you mentioned concerning visibility. You were mentioned again in the Gartner Magic Quadrant report, this time in the Visionary Quadrant. And so please tell us what that means to Yagna IQ.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So we have been recognized in Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is third year in a row. And this year is special as we are in the visionary quadrant of the Magic Quadrant. I believe it is the recognition of our vision and our focus that we have for channel CPQ. This is something unique that most of the incumbent, they don't have, right? So our focus on channel CPQ and install-based monetization driven sales is what we think we have gotten this recognition.
Excellent, and congratulations for being named there in the visionary quadrant, right? Now, one question I have to ask before we dig deeper into the channel questions, and that's, what do you do when you don't work, Manish?
So I have a young family with 2 growing boys, and that keeps us pretty busy. Beside that, it won't be unfair to say that me and my wife, Rashmi, are travel buffs. We love to travel, experience places, food, culture. So we probably have been to more than 30 plus countries so far across different continents. And we have only, I would say, striked off only 25% of our list where we want to go.
Wow, that's a long list, especially during the pandemic. How are the restrictions these days?
Yeah, restrictions are getting better. And in the last 18 months or so, we haven't been traveling all that much. So we have a lot of catch up to do once things get better.
Excellent. That's exciting, especially when the pandemic improves, right? So, but now let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about the channel questions, right? And we talk a little bit in more detail than we typically do on the podcast. So, when you talk about channel capabilities, right? So then let's first clarify the different roles in the channel process. Can you do that for us, please?
So typically, if you see, vendor may sell directly to its customers, right? But it is very difficult for vendors. So when I say vendor, I mean product manufacturer, right? So it is very difficult for vendor to cover the global length and breadth in terms of customer. They cannot simply reach every single customer, right? And that's where channel comes in. Think of channel as like your indirect sales, right? And there are 4 main stakeholders in the channel. That is vendor or product manufacturer themselves, the distributors, the resellers, and the end customers. So today, if you see vendor or product manufacturer, of course, they build the products. Then they have these distributors. And when I say distributors, we are talking about Ingrams and Tech Data of the world. So they have these distributors for each of these geographies. These distributors work as, think like a warehouse, and sell to local resellers according to local jurisdiction, taxation laws, and there are a lot of things, right? The channels are the ones the resellers are the ones who have access to the end customers. And they are the ones who hunt for the business. So in a nutshell, we are talking about 4 main players where the flow is vendors to distributors to resellers to the end customer. And if you see, typically 50 to 70% of global revenue is generated through channel. And they are one of the most essential part of selling.
Excellent. And I know there are lots of business where the channel is a very key part of it, right? So, and each and every relationship is different, as you described. So you have the vendor manufacturer relationship to the distributor to the reseller, and the reseller to the end customer. And typically we talk about the vendor manufacturer relationship to the end customer when we talk about CPQ on the podcast in a lot of cases, right? And now there are also different expectations regarding products, prices, and quotes for these different levels. So can you tell us some examples on why that is important to look at these relationships separately and what's important to look at in these relationships?
Sure. So if you see here, let's take an example. Suppose we have HP as the vendor. and suppose they are selling laptops, 50 laptops they are selling for say $1,000 to a distributor, right? Now, when it comes to distributor may be sitting in say Asia, they may be sitting somewhere in Latin America, somewhere in US, and they are catering to the resellers of their geos. So now this distributor, when they get these laptop $1,000 each, their job is to make sure that all the taxation, everything is paid, freight, and everything is paid, and build a quote on top of that where they take care of their margins, the local taxation, because as we know there are different taxations in different geos, making sure that quote is being done in local currency if the local currency is required, because vendor may be just selling in US dollars, but the distributor may have to quote to their partner in local currency. Then they have things like they may have to build their own quote with their own logos. They have to have their own terms and conditions. So there are tons of things that they have to do in this process. So it is just not the product which is coming in, but also they have to redo this entire quote. And then when it goes to the reseller, the same process is repeated, because that reseller will have their own margins. They may have different taxation for themselves, different currencies requirement, and those things. So that's how this whole process works today.
Excellent. So I think just to summarize, right? So the key points here on each and every different level is that there is a possibility to upload your own prices because they are different at every level. And there is also a need to have additional quote documents available. Everyone has their own quote documents, and there are potentially more specific needs required, correct?
Absolutely correct, Frank.
Yeah. Okay, so generally there are 4 channel levels we discussed so far. The first is the vendor, the manufacturer. That's the company that typically buys the CPQ solution. Then you have a distributor, a reseller, and an end customer. And there are relationships between these levels, like the vendor has a relationship to the distributor has one to the reseller, and the reseller has one to the end customer. And in each relationship, there are challenges. So let's talk about what challenges you see in these relationships.
So Frank, if you see, right, the typical selling process as we were talking through, right? So there are multiple stakeholders, right? So there is a vendor, distributor, reseller. If you see each of these systems, today they work in silos. Like vendor system doesn't know about the distributor system, and distributor system doesn't know about the reseller system. So what happens today? Pretty much the whole process of quoting and order closing is disjointed. So that process is, I call it, broken. To give you an example, if you see, right, suppose if we talk about a particular quote, a quote when it is built by a vendor for a distributor, this quote is pushed to a portal called partner. Typically, it's called partner portal. Now what happens, the distributor, they have to go to this particular portal, log in, download this quote, convert that into Excel, add there all the things that I talked about, margin, taxation, currency, everything, convert into their own quote, their own white labeled quote, and then they pass this quote back to the channel, reseller. Reseller has to redo the same thing. So think about the problem now, where every single thing, we are talking about thousands and thousands of deals, and every single deal goes through exactly this process. And the problem is because the CPQ, which is residing on vendor system, it doesn't extend to the channel. And this is the exact problem that we try to solve, right? So now what happens every time, whenever these quotes are created, there's so much manual work and so much unproductivity there. It is okay when we are talking about new deals, because when there is new deals, these channel partner distributors and resellers, they have reasonably good margins, so they don't mind doing all this work. This problem gets worse when we talk about renewal, because in case of renewal, if you see, the margin for the channel is hardly 10%. It's a cash cow for the vendor, but for channel, it is only 10% margin. So now think about that if you are dealing with, say, if we talk about, say, Ingram or Tech Data of the world, where they have these thousands of contracts whose codes are sitting in this partner portal that I talked about, and they have to download every single one, manually convert every single one, and then send it back to the channel partner. So what happens? Because of there is so much manual work involved, the whole renewal process today is reactive. So when I say reactive, what I mean is only two types of renewals are proactively approached to the customers. Number one, they are high value because people can afford to do all this manual work, or when end customer or reseller themselves are coming and asking distributor for the quote. And this is a big problem. And think about this problem multiplies the moment we talk about the distributor is not dealing with one vendor, they're dealing with at least tens of vendors at any given point of time. So we are talking about logging in to these tens of vendors portal if they have some kind of a renewal code lying there, and then changing for every and each of one manually, and then passing out to channel partner. And this is where we see a big problem that needs to be solved.
Excellent. So to summarize what we've discussed so far is you help to reduce the time it takes to go through this channel process, and you help to reduce the number of potential errors during this process because you automate the channel process. Is there anything you want to add here?
Absolutely. So these two things, of course, we are reducing the time. We are making the renewal process proactive, which has been reactive for a long time. And last but not least, let's talk about the low dollar renewals. So low dollar renewal today, most of the time channel doesn't touch it because there's margin is little in renewal. And if it is low dollar, nobody cares. Only solution for it is automation and end-to-end automation, where it is not just building the code, but also placing the order, taking the payment, and all those things along.
Excellent. And then let me ask for one question, because I think that also helps to get to understand that a little bit better. Do you have any numbers from a customer that you can share without naming the customer name, but just sharing some results that you've seen after they used your software?
So what we see today, that rate of renewal has gone up 20 to 20% just because this whole thing is turned into a proactive renewal. So this is, I'm quoting a real data. I cannot name the customer, of course, but we are seeing 20 to 25% increase in renewal rates.
Excellent. So now we have discussed quite a bit. We have discussed the different channel levels. We have discussed the relationship between these levels, the challenges. Now, please tell us what the solution does for your customers, and that could be on any of the levels previously mentioned. So what does the solution do for them, Manish?
I love to talk about our solution, Frank, because we can see every day that we are solving a real problem for the channel and the difference we are making for the channel today. So our product, Renewal Cloud for Channel, in layman's term, is a seamless extension of any CPQ system vendor may be running for themselves. So what we are talking about, that vendor may be running a CPQ system which can be of any vendor that we really don't care. We are focused on solving the problem for the channel, right? So if you see, I already talked about the pains the channel has to go through today for quoting as well as order closure process, which is especially worse for renewal due to low margins. So our Renewal Cloud makes this whole renewal process in the channel zero touch. Yes, you heard it right, zero touch. So what we do, Frank, today is we seamlessly connect with vendor CPQ system in the backend. And I'm just giving you a very high level, idea that what we do, right? Get all the code, information and the contract information from them by connecting through the APIs, and automatically convert these codes to channel codes by adding these distributors and resellers, margin, taxes, currencies, logo, terms and condition, and all those things. Once that is done, we also automatically forward these quotes to resellers. Resellers can access these quotes on our portal, our mobile apps, as well as on emails, right? In some instances, especially on low dollar renewals, we even attach a payment link where when the end customer, they look at it and then renewal is maybe say $1,000. Nobody wants to be involved. There's a link. They click on that link and they just go ahead and pay for it. So what we are doing with this zero touch renewal, Frank, we are turning, as I talked about, the whole process, upside down, from being proactive, from being reactive to proactive, where system is reaching to seller by itself. Earlier, some human has to reach, some human has to follow up. Now the system is doing on behalf of them. It is building the quotes, sending it, collecting the payment, tracking it, and in case you see, like in some cases, even though suppose the quote is sent and payment link is sent, but the reseller is not closing it, even system detects all those anomalies and system can reroute it to the new resellers. So all those things are built in our system.
Excellent. And I just want to make sure that one point is not getting lost. You mentioned at the beginning you can do that with any CPQ solution, which I think is interesting because we talked about it earlier. You were mentioning the Gartner Magic Quadrant. You have your own CPQ solution. So why did you decide to work with any CPQ solution if needed? Why didn't you first promote your own CPQ solution?
So CPQ system, if you see, right, CPQ is a crowded space. And our vision was right from the beginning that we wanted to solve a channel CPQ problem, the problem that channel is facing. But if you see, a lot of these big product manufacturers, they already have some form of CPQ. So it is really unrealistic to assume that just because we provide channel CPQ, they will join our bandwagon and leave their existing CPQ. That is never going to happen. So that's where we thought of this coexistence, where we said channel CPQ, let that CPQ be different. Of course, we use a lot of components, a lot of things from the core or that vendor CPQ. But as I said in the beginning, the channel CPQ problems are quite a lot different from the vendor CPQ problems. To give you an example, right? Today I was talking about the channel has to access 50 different portals to get different vendor codes. But think about it, in case of renewal, we are talking about unifying all renewal across all the vendor in one portal. So even though now vendor 1 may be running one CPQ, 2 may be running another CPQ, doesn't matter. I'm going to connect in the backend with each of these vendors. But what solution I offer to the distributor and channel is a unified portal. When they come, they are seeing all their vendors because we are doing all the dirty work in the backend.
Novo CPQ Consulting helps you with all CPQ related questions. For example, we help customers to find the best CPQ solution for their business, and we help customers analyze their current business process to determine if and where CPQ can help. Here it's important to point out that we are 100% independent and always look out for our customers first. This means for us also that we don't get paid by any CPQ vendor for providing them new customers or for any other services. We are focused on our customers and always provide the best available information to them. We also help system integrators to improve their services, and we offer the only CPQ industry subscription that provides monthly CPQ news and trends. We have many other services, so check it out today at novocpq.com. Send me an email to frank.sohn@novocpq.com to learn how we can help you with your CPQ questions, and keep us in mind when you look for 100% impartial CPQ advice. Okay, Manish. So now at the beginning, I think we talked about two different high-level areas where you help, right? So that's renewals and install-based monetization. So we talked about the renewals. Now let's maybe switch over and talk a little bit more about what you call install-based monetization. Please tell us what you mean by that. What is that?
So, Frank, let's define the term first, install base. So, if you see over the years, vendors through distributors, channel partners sell tons of products to thousands of these customers, right? All these records of whatever is sold, right, sit in vendors. It may be sitting in their CRM system. It may be sitting in CPQ system, ERP system, different system it is sitting, right? So this knowledge of what was sold, like what product was sold, when was sold, to which customer, and a lot of other data around is what is called install base. And utilizing this information to sell more via upsell and cross sell to existing customer as well as a new customer is what we call it install based monetization. So today, whether it is vendor or channel partners, everyone is focused on acquiring new customer, which is good. But what about generating revenue from existing customers? So research suggests that selling to an existing customer is 6 to 7 times cheaper. However, if you see proactively upselling and cross-selling to existing customer is almost non-existing for the vendor in the channel. And in case you're wondering that why it happens, because everybody would like to sell to existing customer more. And when we talk to these vendors, right, everybody talks about it, but nobody has a system or nobody has the success to do it. So I want to talk about that why this thing is not happening while everybody wants to do it. So this happens because CPQ product vendors, the product vendors are using is not equipped to identify these upsell cross-sell opportunities. So we are talking about CPQs, but CPQs pretty much they are doing the quoting as the name suggests, configuration, price, and quote. It is not equipped to identify these upsell cross-sell opportunities. And even if they deploy, say, a team of data scientists, there is no way for these vendors to effectively communicate these opportunities to the channel. So guess what? These upsell cross-sell leads, even though vendors create by putting a team together, they are sent out to the channel on an Excel without any context, like why somebody should be upselling, cross-selling, in an email, and something I call it black hole. So basically, even if they do it, they send an email, goes in black hole, nobody knows what happened to it, and there's no tracking, there is nothing. And this is where we believe that there is a big scope where we can come in and solve this problem. So just to give you a perspective, based on our research, based on some Forrester paper and IDC research, Frank, there is total $1.2 trillion of existing install base only in IT industry. We are talking about $1.2 trillion. And if you look into the upsell, cross-sell, it's very minuscule. And this is where we believe that, there is close to $300 billion of revenue for these vendors are waiting to be unearthed. And today there is no system which can address that. And this is where we are trying to solve this problem.
Excellent. Then give us some examples on how you do that in the system.
So if you see, right, our solution, basically what we are doing is once we have access to the install base data, there are basically two major things that we do with that data, right? So one is, simple identifying opportunities, which are what you call it like product refreshes, finding, like say, for example, if you have sold a product 5 years ago or 4 years ago, now those products are ready to be refreshed. Who is going today and looking into install base back and identifying, in a proper process that now let's go to these customers and ask them and offer them new product. Things like, say, for example, product migration. As you know, more and more companies are moving away from perpetual licenses in software domain and going to SaaS. Think about if you have sold perpetual license over the 10 years, 20 years, time frame, and now you're talking about all these customers who are still with you, you want to move to them to SaaS. How are you going to do this? There may be, like, I can give you an example with one particular vendor that we are working. They have been selling that product for last 8 years, and they have 71 new SaaS combination for those product line. It's simply impossible for somebody to do it manually or sitting in Excel. You need a system like ours. Things like net new logo. Say, for example, today, who is going back to install base and identifying and very simple things, right? Like what you call it, Amazon or Netflix like things, where customer who bought this, they have bought this kind of thing, or viewers who have watched this movie, so you can watch this. Who is looking into this install base and identifying all this opportunity and meaningfully sending to channel with a context that why they should be going and talking to their end customer, and how to talk and how to build quote using the CPQ. Things like net new logo, where identifying where you can cross marry, especially channel can do it easily, right? See, remember, channel today is dealing with multiple vendors. All the vendors are not competition, not necessarily competition. Some vendors are complementary. So can the channel cross marry the data across complementary vendor and create new opportunities? So this is what we are talking about, Frank, that all these things can be done along with the install base, monetization. So our vision, our grand vision, Frank, CPQ has been a cost center. It's not cheap to install a CPQ system. We are talking about, by bringing in these functionality, can we change CPQ from being a cost center to a profit center, where system itself generates you lead and new business opportunities?
I want to follow up on one point that you mentioned as a precondition, right? So you have to access the sales transaction data some way. How do you do that today in your solution?
Typically, the sales transaction data can reside in different systems for different organizations. This is based on their IT's information management architecture. It can reside in an ERP or CRM or even CPQ system. We have inbuilt integration with all these leading systems, and we pull data from these systems for our upsell, cross-sell, and renewal processing. Frank, as we all know, integration between the system does take time. Hence, typically in phase one, what we do, we start by simple method such as a CSV import into our platform. This approach works great because we start to show results within 4 to 6 weeks of signing the agreement with our customers. We understand well that we are dealing with very sensitive data, and we have made the InfoSec security as one of the top priorities for Yagna IQ. We also have a concept of a clean room where we mask and sanitize the sensitive data before we start the processing. We are also going through ISO 27001 certification process, which is the gold standard for the InfoSec, and hope to finish it within a quarter.
And last but not least, you have also an app, a workflow app, which is called the Journey Builder, which allows the definition of rules for handling renewals. And it helps to finish out the process and send the renewals as well as the cross and upsell products and the services to a customer. Please tell us a little bit more about that application.
If you see, today the renewal and upsell are treated as an event. That is, in case of renewal, a quote is sent to the channel. But once the quote is sent, there is absolutely no tracking or feedback loop whatsoever, and no one knows its status unless the sales ops person sends multiple follow-up emails or pick a phone to call. Clearly, this inefficiency is not helping anyone. What our Journey Builder is doing is making renewal and upsell cross-sell a close-ended process rather than an event. It is a drag and drop kind of workflow designer where any vendor, distributor, or channel partner can create their own custom workflows. So, Frank, let's take an example. Suppose a vendor or distributor sales ops person, let's name him Tom. Tom wants to send a zero-touch renewal codes to all his partners. So he may have these thousands of partners. First, Tom comes to our journey builder and defines a custom workflow for renewal codes. Tom can then also define what-if scenarios, like if the sent code is not opened by the partner, and this send code could be through email which was sent, or partner has not accessed the code in portal or mobile app within 2 days, then send an automatic reminder to this partner. Tom can also define if this partner still does not respond, then reassign this renewal contract to either his sales ops person or reassign to another partner. So basically what we are doing is Journey Builder is making decisions for Tom, and this decision could be based on contract value, partner type, partner geo, product category, and many more attributes. If you see what Tom is doing is making a unidirectional event that is just sending a renewal code to an interactive and 100% automated closed loop process for better rate of success. And not to forget, tons of time Tom is saving to invest in closing more deals.
And I think honestly, it's a very interesting solution, right? So, and what I realize as we go through this, it's a lot of theory, right? So, and I think it's probably a little bit easier to understand when people see it. So, hence, I would say let's do that. Let's do a webinar to look at everything we discussed in a real system, so that people really understand what are the renewals you were talking about, what's the install base monetization, and how is that all wrapped up at the end with this journey builder flow at the end. What do you say to that, Manish?
Definitely, Frank, we are looking forward to it. So, and that would be a great idea.
Excellent. So then let's watch the Yagna and the Novo CPQ websites, as well as LinkedIn and Twitter, for more information on when this is coming up. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Manish, what's a good way for interested listeners to get a hold of you in case they have any follow-up questions for you?
Sure, Frank. You can reach us at info@yagnaiq.com.
And as always, we will have this information in the show notes. So thank you very much, Manish, for making time for the CPQ podcast today and tell us a little bit more about the channel business. And I'm already looking forward to doing the webinar with you to not just talk about it, but this time share the screen and see the 3 products that we talked about, the renewals, the install base monetization, as well as the journey builder. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thanks again for having me here.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.